Lesson 6-5, Greatest Common Factor. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to find the greatest common factor of two or more numbers. Remember to grab a pencil and paper so you can take notes as you go along and work out the problems right along with me. Here's the vocabulary word to copy down today. Greatest common factor. That's the greatest number that is the same factor of two or more numbers. So to find the GCF, the greatest common factor, you first list the factors of each number, then find the common factors, and last you choose the greatest common factor. So let's take a look at those steps using the examples 8, 12, and 20. We first list all the factors of each number. Okay, so I've gone ahead and listed all the factors for each number. So then my next step is to find all the common factors. So I look, and they each have 1, so I'm going to list 1. They each have 2. This one doesn't have a 3. This one has a 4, and a 4, so that's another common factor. Then I go here to my 8. I don't have an 8 in either other one, so I'm all done. So now I have all of the common factors, and the last step is to choose the greatest common factor. That would be the greatest number, which is here, 4. So the GCF, the greatest common factor of 8, 12, and 20 is 4. Another way of looking at this would be, instead of saying the greatest common factor of two or more numbers, would be the greatest common divisor. So that would be the G, C, D, the D for divisor. So it would be any number that divides, the greatest number that divides into each three numbers equally. So we know 4 divides evenly into 8, 12, and 20. So you can either think of it as the greatest common factor or the greatest common divisor. Okay, so let's take a look at another example. Okay, so here's the numbers 8 and 24. I want you to find the factors for each of these numbers and then come back and check your work against mine. So go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so I've listed all of the factors of 8 and 24. So now I need to take a look at each of them and see what are the common factors. So I see they both have 1. Then I go to the next one, they both have 2. I take a look at this top one, and my next number is 4. Down here there's also a 4, so that's a common factor. My last number up top is 8. There's also an 8 down here, so I have 1, 2, 4, and 8. So those are my common factors. Now the greatest one here is 8. So the GCF of 8 and 24 would be 8. Go ahead now and work through numbers 1 through 23, and then watch the rest of the video once you finish that for the next part of the lesson. Okay, another cool way to find the GCF for both of these numbers is to use prime factorization, which we just learned in the previous lessons. So I'm going to make my factor tree for each of these, and it's actually going to give me the GCF. It's pretty cool. So 27, it would be 3 times 9 are the factors I'm going to start out with. Remember, you can start out with any two factors. You're going to still come up with the same prime factorization. So 3 is already prime. Bring that down. 3 times 3 is 9. So that's finished. Now I look at 54, and I have 9 times 6 equals 54. I break down to the 9 into a 3 times 3. And the 6 is a 3 times 2. Now what I need to do is multiply the prime factors that are the common to both of them. So in 27, I have this group of 3 right here, and those are going to be multiplied together. And then I also have a group of 3 here. This is the biggest grouping of the two numbers. They're common to both. So I do 3 times 3 times 3, and that equals 27. So this 2 out here was all by itself. There is no 2 over in this number, so I didn't use it. I used the 3's because they were common to both of them. And then you multiply them together. Let's take a look at another example for that. Okay, so for 48 and 56, I'm going to start off with my 48, and 6 times 8 equals 48. So now I need to break down each of those. My 6 would be 2 times 3, and my 8 is 2 times 4. This one is prime, this is prime, this is prime, and I need to break down my 4 into 2 times 2. So now I'm going to rewrite that in order at the bottom. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, so that way I can compare it when I'm done with the 56. So 7 times 8 equals 56. 7 is prime. 8 would be 2 times 4. I bring down my 7. I bring down my 2. And now 4 breaks up to 2 and 2. So now I rewrite this as 2 times 2 times 2 times 7. Now I take a look at these and I compare them. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 2's here. I have 1, 2, 3 2's here. So the greatest grouping of 2's I have is 3. So that's what's common to both of them. So I'm going to do 2 times 2, I'm going to write that right here. 2 times 2 times 2, that equals 8. So my GCF for these would be 8. Remember, I didn't use this 2 because there wasn't another one on this side, and I didn't use the 3 because there wasn't a 3 over here. I didn't use a 7 because there was no 7. You're looking for the common numbers between both of them, and then the greatest amount that they both share. Let's take a look at one more. Okay, let's take a look at the numbers 36 and 72. For 36, I have 6 times 6, and I break those down into 2 times 3 and 2 times 3. Then I put them in order from least to greatest. 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. So now I do 72. That would be 9 times 8. 9 would be 3 times 3, and 8 is 2 times 4. So this one is prime, 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 and then 2 times 2. So when I write that in order, I have 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. So now I take a look and compare. Over here, I have 2 2's. I also have at least 2 2's here, so I can use those. So I'm going to write those down. I have 2 times 2. Then I take a look at my 3's. I've got 2 3's here. I also have 2 3's here, so I can use both of those. So then I do times 3 times 3. So when I multiply 2 times 2, that's 4, times 3 is 12, times 3, that gives me 36. So my greatest common factor for 36 and 72 is 36. So go ahead and work on problems 24 through 38 and rewatch any parts of the video that you need to.